Here are some recent words of Pope Francis. So great was his love that God began to walk with mankind. He began to walk alongside his people until the right time came, and then he gave the greatest demonstration of his love, his Son. And where did he send his Son? To a palace? To a city? To an office building? He sent him to a family. God came into the world in a family. And he could do this because that family was a family with a heart open to love, a family whose doors were open. So Pope Francis. And this is why we can't imagine Christmas without the crib, without Mary and Joseph, without Bethlehem and Nazareth. Jesus had a human ancestry, like all of us. He was a descendant of Abraham, of the tribe of Judah, of the family of David. He had a mother, like all of us. He had a home. Joseph was not his biological father, but was his father in every other respect. On the 8th day after his birth, Joseph would have taken the little boy to be circumcised and publicly named him Jesus, as the angel had told him to do. Later, Jesus learned his trade from Joseph and was known as the carpenter's son. On the 40th day, his parents took him to present him in the temple. This family practiced their religion together. They went up to Jerusalem. They went to the synagogue together. Jesus himself kept the fourth commandment, honor your father and mother. And though he was the Son of God, he was obedient to Mary and Joseph. Perhaps because he was the Son of God. And it's clear, too, from the Gospels, that there was a wider family as well. Not literal brothers and sisters, but either cousins or half-brothers and half-sisters through a previous marriage of Joseph. And it's clear that this wider family, extended family, was at first taken aback when Jesus began his public life, but later came to believe in him. And after Pentecost, some of them became key figures in the church in Jerusalem. Yes, God sent his Son to a family. Now, it's not easy to preach, you might say, about the family these days. It requires a certain courage. And how do you do it? Well, lamentation is one possibility. I think if you're more than 60 or so, you can't but be aware of how the landscape has changed, how a stability that was taken for granted when one was younger in family life has ridden off into the sunset, really. How widespread divorce is, how normal cohabitation is. One can lament the many forces that discourage family life, or the many things that can undermine it from within. How available pornography is, for example. One can lament the recent legislation regarding same-sex marriage, which is really just playing with words. Yes, one can certainly lament, but I don't think it's the most helpful thing to do. And on the other hand, one can idealize marriage and the family, romanticize it, paint far too rosy a picture. But this perhaps is not the most helpful thing either. It can just make us feel that we don't make the grade somehow. And of course, there are Catholics, not a few, who feel alienated from aspects of the Church's teaching on sex and marriage and the family, while others are bravely faithful to it. And among us, at least thinking of our native Catholics, most marriages are mixed. And then how often there's the sadness of faithful parents seeing their children fall from the practice of their faith or take up lifestyles that are not really compatible with it. But perhaps better than either lamenting or romanticizing is just going back to a first few basics. Well, yes, here's the strange thing, that men and women keep on being drawn to each other and keep wanting to share their whole life with each other and have children together. And this isn't going to go away. It's part of our DNA. It's part of how we are made. This is why men and women leave their fathers and mothers and cleave to each other and become one flesh. It's why, thank God, there are always children around. There's something just plain basic and ineradicable about marriage and family life. Insuppressible, you might say, irrepressible. It's part of the goodness of things. And put theologically, it's willed by God. This is the normal vocation for a human being. It's the ordinary way we flourish. Becoming a husband or a wife or a mother or a father, these are great, serious, fulfilling things. These are the ways we enter into the joy of being alive and being human. And so our teaching is that marriage and the family are part of the order of creation, part of the way things are and are meant to be. It is not good for man to be alone. And in his goodness, God has given us 2 of the 10 commandments to uphold the family. You shall not commit adultery, because that breaks the bond between husband and wife. You shall honor your father and mother, to bond parents and children together, generation after generation. And so we teach that the family comes before wider society, before the state. It's the basic cell, nucleus of human society. It's where, God willing, we learn to love, we learn to forgive and to ask forgiveness, where we may pick up a little wisdom and become more considerate of others. And at its best, I think, surely it's a sanctuary. It protects us from the madness of the world around, but also gives us the courage to face that world and do something wholesome in it. Another basic, of course, is that for Christians, between the baptized, marriage is a sacrament. It's a mystery of sanctifying grace. And so married life takes on another dimension. It reflects Christ's love for the church and the church's love for Christ. And married life and family life, which are never without the cross, therefore become a path of holiness. Perhaps the great mark of getting it right is what Pope Francis mentioned in that quotation. He said God sent his family, and that family was open to receive him. And I think a family that is hospitable and open is a family where grace is at work. We talk about the homeless. Well, there are also the familyless, or those whose links to their family are broken. There are many isolated and lonely folk around, and it's a wonderful thing that families can do to offer them hospitality, even adopt them in a sense. But perhaps the most basic thing of all is simply this: that God loves the family. God loves family life. He therefore loves my family. He wills it. He establishes it. He supports it. He wants us to keep working at it, not walk out on it. He's in the midst of it, among the pots and pans, as St. Teresa said. And Christ, his only begotten Son, Christ loves the family and family life and my family. He endorses it. He makes it a place of grace. He's present in the midst of it. And in his name, too, the Church loves the family. That is why she has synods and teachings. It's why the Holy Father will be publishing something soon on this very subject. It's because, however clumsily at times, the Church cares for the family. She wishes to bless it. At the end of this Mass, there will be a blessing, if you would wish it, for your family. And I think it would be wrong to turn our backs on this care from the Church, because it is part of God's love, of Christ's love for the family. And so let us love the family, which often means concretely just loving our own strange, funny families, and those of our friends as well. God sent his Son to a family. It's extraordinary truth. God sent his Son to a family. This is Pope Francis's prayer to the Holy Family. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, in you we contemplate the splendor of true love. To you we turn with trust. Holy Family of Nazareth, grant that our families too may be places of communion and prayer, authentic schools of the gospel and small domestic churches. Holy Families of Nazareth, may families never again experience violence, rejection, and division. May all who have been hurt or scandalized find ready comfort and healing. Holy Family of Nazareth, make us once more mindful of the sacredness and inviolability of the family and its beauty in God's plan. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, graciously hear our prayer. Amen.